Hi, I'm Paul. For this video, I'm going to try and have a kind of waffle on about thinking and how thinking works. And the reason why I say waffle on is I'm not really going to try to give or specifically find answers on this thinking. I'm just going to see if I can come up with a few scenarios of thinking and see if I can recognize when we need to use our thinking and when we don't, and what our thinking is doing when we're doing an activity and so on. So I guess we need somewhere to start. Okay, so let's just say we're driving a car. Now, perhaps if you don't drive, we can say riding a bike or perhaps just walking down the street. Now, I guess many of us say that we can't do anything without thinking, without the thought of what we're doing. But then, when driving a car or walking, do we think of how we're driving the car? Do we need to think, I best press the brake pedal? So it kind of seems that there might be something else other than thinking. Perhaps it seems like it comes automatic, maybe, so when we're driving a car it seems that some automatic movement that we do without actually thinking. Perhaps we could say this is the same as walking down the street. So let's just say you're walking down the street. Are you actually thinking of where you're putting your feet? I suppose you could always ask, are you thinking of where you need to go? Well, perhaps we can look at that in two different ways. Let's say we don't know where we're going. I guess then you can be saying in your mind, should I turn left here, or should I carry on, or should I turn right? But do we need that? Okay, let's just say we're walking down the street and we have a destination in mind, but we don't know how to get there. So perhaps we have our phone and the map on our phone, and we need to look at the map to work out, do I turn left here or do I go straight on? So perhaps you can ask yourself the question before you look at the phone. Maybe this is how you're thinking. You're saying to yourself, I wonder if I should turn right here, or is it straight on? But then you look at your phone and the phone tells you to turn right. Do you need to say to yourself, okay, the phone says turn right, so I'll turn right? Or do you just see that the phone says turn right, so you turn right? You see, I think that you don't need thought, especially when you've got a phone or a map. So perhaps just walking down the street, and you do know where you're going, so you're walking. Do you need to put any thought into that? I don't think you do. So perhaps then you get bored, and then you start thinking, I will try not to step on any of the cracks in the pavement. Or perhaps your mind drifts and starts saying, what do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do in my destination? So it may just seem that in silence we seem to think that we need to think, or we don't like silence or boredom, I don't know. So, let's try another scenario. Okay, perhaps when we're cooking a meal. So let's say we're going to cook a meal and we're in the kitchen, and perhaps we're made a decision that we're going to cook lasagna. So whilst cooking the lasagna, what things do we need to consider first? Do I really want lasagna? Well, you see, questioning do I want lasagna isn't going to make lasagna, and I suppose what I'm trying to determine here is it possible to make a meal without thought? So, let's say you need the minced beef out of the fridge. Do you decide? Do you think that you need to get the minced beef? See, I don't know how it is for everybody else, because for me, I don't think I do. I just go to the fridge and get the minced beef. Perhaps, do we need to think while slicing an onion? So we have a knife in our hand and we have the onion. And you cut the end of the onion off. Do you need to think to do that? I would still probably say I wouldn't. However, I do recognise in a lot of people that in this situation, when things become automatic, or maybe they're just automatic in the first place, but when they become automatic, it seems that our mind wants to start thinking. So, when our arms are just doing things for us, and then you start thinking, I hope such and such is going to like this lasagna. Or, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? But it seems like all them thoughts aren't actually used to cook the lasagna or make the meal, but more a story about I hope these are going to like it. Otherwise, maybe I'm a crap cook. Do I want this lasagna? What should I do later? How should I don't know kind of what to answer that with. Well, I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying, because I had a conversation with someone the other day about thinking and thoughts, and every time I really tried to get this person to really explain, do you use thoughts to do things? He responded back with, well, yeah, I need to decide whether to, I need to, and all the thinking just seemed to be about the I. But then when you get past that and say, okay, forget that thinking, move deeper, do you need thought to make the meal? Just seems like you don't. Kind of seems like the thought is the entertainment whilst doing it. So when we're talking non-duality or spirituality, about getting rid of the thoughts, perhaps it's just not the thoughts what's creating the suffering. See, even if you had thoughts whilst trying to make a meal, and the thoughts was just saying, I need to get the minced beef out of the fridge, and then I need to get this onion, and then I need to chop the onion, and perhaps I should chop it into small pieces, and so on. And you see, even if you was using thinking in that situation, that you see, that causes no suffering. It's just kind of a flow of thoughts. And if our thoughts was just like that, then there'll be no real reason for us to try to get rid of them. But there does appear to be thoughts which seem to cause suffering. And it almost seems that these sort of thoughts are much louder. And these thoughts seem to be, perhaps when you go to get the minced beef out the fridge and then you get a thought, I hope they're gonna like this. You go to chop the onion and you say, am I supposed to cut it small or am I supposed to cut it big? What if I do it wrong? Perhaps there's the thought, I should read a cookbook because maybe I don't know how to make it good enough. So in a sense, it's these thoughts which are really loud. It's these thoughts which seem to cause the suffering. It seems to be that the thoughts which are based on I is the problem. It also possibly seems to be that the thoughts about the I don't have anything to do with cooking the meal, but perhaps cause a conflict. So if it's the thoughts that cause the conflict that create the suffering, so in some ways it's the thoughts that cause resistance. Or is it the resistance? So perhaps the thoughts, I might not be good enough, creates the resistance of cooking the meal, and then creates doubt. This kind of sounds a little bit like perhaps when you're driving a car or riding a bike, your body does it automatically. You pedal the bike, automatic, you steer it, automatic, but then when the thoughts come in and doubt how you're riding the bike, causes resistance, then you try to take over riding the bike with your thoughts and then make even more of a mess. I wonder if when cooking a meal and you go to get the minced beef out, perhaps you was going to get the minced beef anyway, and then you had a thought over the top of it saying, I'm going to get the minced beef. I guess the purpose of this video really was to try to suggest that I don't really think that we need thoughts to operate, to do the things we do. I think they just come naturally. Perhaps we can call it a reaction to the environment. Suppose one way we could look at this is if I have a goldfish bowl with some fish in it, if I feed them fish every 5 o'clock every day, and when I arrive at the goldfish bowl at 5 o'clock, the fish come to the top ready for the food. Did them fish think, it must be 5 o'clock, I want my food? Or did them fish come to the top as a reaction or a response to the environment? I would think it'd be a response to the environment. So Let's try and describe this in another way. Let's just say you've got a cup of tea in front of you. Perhaps you're doing some work, writing something or whatever else, and you've got a cup of tea in front of you, and then you pick up a cup of tea and then you take a sip. And then I say to you, why did you take that sip of tea? And most people would say, because I was thirsty. Really? Did you think? Is that what happened just before you picked up the cup of tea? Did you have a brain movement that said, I'm thirsty, I'm just going to pick up that cup of tea and put it to my mouth? Or did your arm just pick up the cup of tea and put it to your mouth and you automatically swallowed? See, I happen to think that picking up a cup of tea and putting it to your mouth was a reaction, a response to the environment. The environment is there's a cup of tea there. So when asked the question, why did you do that? It seems as if the thinking mind seems to want to come up with a reasonable reason why the I chose to make that decision, because we can't possibly consider the fact that this is happening by itself. So perhaps our whole thinking process is about control. It gives us the illusion that there is an us who's making the decision that we controlled. In some way, when we do have thoughts, I guess, what happens with a thought is its brain movement. We kind of move into the past, which is to move into our memories, past memories. And then we project these past memories into an image, into the future, to describe something. And perhaps it's this movement from the past into the future to describe something which would give us the illusion of control. To say, I understand this situation. I've seen past experiences. So then, if the idea of the movement of thought of the I is to gain control of what possibly might come next, all of this movement of thought would be to go into past memories, which means a brain movement from the present moment into the memories, which is the past, and then project into the future to make the appearance of control. Anyway, I've never done a video quite like this. I just wanted to see how it goes. I sometimes do this in my own head. In fact, not sometimes, I used to do this all the time in my head whilst trying to understand what reality is. So yeah, I just thought I'd give it a shot and see how it goes. So thanks so much for listening.